Claude Sonnet 4.5 just became the highest ranking model in the world, hitting 77% on the SWE benchmark, outperforming Codex. But here's what actually matters. I just built a production level financial analysis agent in under 3 hours without writing a single line of traditional code. How? Through Sonnet 4.5 enhanced agentic capabilities, extended autonomous operation. This model can now work independently for up to 30 hours. Its context awareness has drastically increased because now Claude can track its own token usage throughout conversations, preventing premature task abandonment. Enhanced tool usage, parallel tool calls, firing off multiple searches simultaneously and reading several files at once. Advanced context management, maintaining state, and the true game changer, the new memory tool in beta. This memory tool enables Claude to store and retrieve information outside the context window, meaning the agent can now build knowledge over time, remembering architectural decisions, and doesn't lose critical insights when conversations get long. This is what happens when deep architectural understanding meets frontier AI. This exact methodology has led me to build Tradetir, a production-grade multi-agent trading system built entirely through architectural design and advanced prompt engineering. Not a tutorial project, not a demo, a real product that I'm launching. You want to go to docs.claude. Ensure that you're on the Claude developer platform. Scroll down, you'll see the capabilities section, which will have the streaming messages, which you will need, the extended thinking, and then how to implement tool use. This provides Claude the best practices for it to implement with your specific agent. In this case, financial. You have the web search tool. This allows your agent to search the web and then cite within that. What you want to do, you want to go to a web search tool, for example, go to the copy page. This is going to copy as a markdown for LLMs. Ensure to copy and paste in here. And then always save it. If you do not save it, these LLMs will not be able to cite it. And so let's begin. So I want to build a financial research agent powered by the new Claude 4.5. And I've gone on to reference the documentation, which we have supplied within the docs. Now, why do you do this? Because these LLMs have a outdated context window and they're trained from a year, potentially 2 years behind. What you will encounter if you do not have the up-to-date context to provide to these LLMs, that it will default back to models that, number one, are no longer in use. Number two, is not the ones that you want to use. So, for example, super important that this is referenced because when it comes to the API, Anthropic needs these specific model codes. Without them, it will fail, and then you'll be there trying to understand what's going wrong. But 9 times out of 10, it'll be because this hasn't been referenced correctly. Secondly, it will use the web search tool as its main default tool because we're building a financial research agent, and it's super important to reference our documentation because this web search tool is provided from Anthropic, that our agent direct access to real-time web content, allowing it to pull stock-related financial information, see upcoming economic events for your agent when it comes to research. Again, it also does provide up-to-date information beyond its knowledge cutoff date, like we've previously spoken about. So when it comes to Anthropic's tooling that they provide from their developer side, you have to reference this in the API. So the API, you need to include this for the model to have access to this. And that's why it's super important to attach. And also has a specific code, just like the 4.5. Now, without this specific code, and you just have web search, it's going to fail. So thirdly, review the tooluse.md to ensure you are following Anthropic's recommended approach. This mitigates any potential failure. I've gone on to link this again. Tooling is super important to get right. Now, tools must be designed eloquently and sophisticatedly to increase the quality of results. A lot of people don't talk about this. Put yourself into the agent LLM's perspective. It needs to know how to use these tools because you can't just give it a tool and then ensure it's going to always be able to use it correctly the way that you want it to be used. And that's why having prompting for specific tool use cases can not only increase the quality, but increase the consistency of that tool being called. Fourth, we need to construct the folder to file architecture. Now, this is also a very, very important point. And I don't see a lot of people talking about this either. People, myself included, have built these systems, but the underlying foundation of it is brittle. you need to ensure that when you're building these agents, these production level code, that the underlying architecture has been thoroughly sought out, thoroughly thought about, and you understand it so you can make the correct changes and adjustments when needed. And fifthly, responses will need to be streamed. I've attached the .md for that specific example because streaming for Anthropic models, they recommend the SSE approach, as you will see here. This is how the API to the agent interacts with streaming. If you want to expose to your users, like we do in Tradetir, the thinking process, which you will see in like Chatgpt, Claude, you have to expose the content block. And you'll see it here. And the Sonnet 4.5 will not understand this unless you provide how it's done. Again, this is why it's super important to include documentation. We also want to ensure our agent has extended thinking to maximize quality and result. I've gone on to attach it here, and basically, extended thinking gives Claude enhanced reasoning capabilities for complex tasks. But realistically, it's providing the LLM with more compute power, more time to think about what it's going to do. So after the agent is constructed, we will house it within a CLI. Now, a CLI, I've gone into reference to Claudecode for it to understand, is essentially this environment here where you can immediately test your agent within the terminal. So the memory tool is a tool that we are going to be providing to our agent to increase the capabilities of its power. So the memory tool will be used to provide the agent with user preferences. So now the memory tool enables Claude to store and retrieve information across conversations through a memory file directory. I've gone in and created that for this user specific case. And that's essentially, you got to have to create a folder, a file. And this is where anything that you want prompted to be stored will be stored / retrieved from this custom knowledge database. I'd like you to construct a production plan, use diagrams, be creative but realistic. This just provides clarity on what we're building, and actually review all the documentation. Do not skip or read 25%. Now, Claude 4.5, I know definitely Opus 4.1 and the previous model, they have a tendency to skip the work and want the result. I think personally, it's just got a lot better at lying and deceiving the user, but still trying to obscure the result of actually doing the work. Done that, we have the minimal system architecture, the user, the CLI, where we can interact with the agent power through prompts and streaming, and then obviously the actual model itself, which is the Claude API, something like that. And it's actually referenced that thanks to linking the documentation within that and the web search tool. Pretty simple. This is a very simple, very easy to understand system prompt. You're an expert financial research analyst. Your role is to, then it goes on to link what the LLM/agent must do. Now, you can definitely improve this because certain prompting can transpire different results. Always cite your sources with URLs, be precise with the numbers and dates. This can reduce hallucination by a lot. Okay, API configuration. Now, I did mention before that if you fail to do this, there's a high chance, and even if it doesn't do that immediately throughout your code, you could see discrepancies between the models being used. That's why we said link the documentation. And 5, limit searches per query. Okay, we'll have that for now. Okay, nice. So I said, okay, proceed with the implementation. This stuck always refer to the documentation, our knowledge database that we collected from Anthropic, and always be calm and collected. Don't be ambitious, just follow the plan. Ensure that thinking is available and then send it. Okay, so I've actually gone on and interrupted it, and I said for the requirements, ensure you upgrade to latest to avoid outdated dependencies. Something to keep in mind of, because what could happen is that these LLMs, due to the context knowledge cutoff date, they will cite / use outdated dependencies, and that can cause incompatibility issues going forward. And you don't want to be going down that rabbit hole. And there you go. I've actually gone and stopped it again, and I said the prompt PY should be separate. not within configuration. So actually, as I'm recording, in its random 400 API errors with these errors to edit the file now, I might have to start up a new instance. But this was meant to be mitigated within the new 1.5. Oh yeah, this is a new feature where it will delete its work to keep the UX/UI display more neat. But there's just a bunch of errors when it does this. I like the idea, but I don't know why we're still getting these 400 errors. And it's still completing to work. So that's definitely a UI/UX bug. Okay, so it's gone and implemented that and it's complete. I successfully built the simplified financial research agent. Here's what was created. What's included for the two things. So we want to set up our API within the .env. So go to here, rename dot. You want to get your Anthropic API key. Just go to Anthropic console. Go to here. And then go to API keys. Install the dependencies. Now you can just ask it to do it itself. So I will highlight this. And I'm going to tell it to install. Ensure thinking is available. Let it go do it itself. Now, unlike ChatGPT, ChatGPT will actually refuse to do this, but Claude is a lot more open to doing these kind of things. Now, I asked it to install the dependencies, but there's some persistent error that's going on. So I'm going to use this moment to show you how to efficiently swap different context windows. So you wouldn't do, I would grab this, go to a new Claude. So I'm going to paste that here. I'm going to list it as the previous chat. Then can you go review the implementation? And I'm going to link the folder, drag that over here. It's going to read the README as well. I need you to get familiar with the code and then install the dependencies, which is now it's going to go review this to get the up-to-date context. It needs to understand the code base. Once it's understood the code base, I feel a lot more trusted for it to go and undertake any actions. Okay, so I've actually gone on and I've actually gone in and actually added my .e. So I've actually gone in and added my Anthropic API key to my .env. I'm not going to go on the file to expose that. So now I've actually gone in and added the Anthropic API key, added it into the .env. So now I should be able to take this, go into a new terminal, and as you can see, we have our personal CLI, which is powered by the Sonnet 4.5 extended thinking and web search. Okay, first error. Yeah. Fix. Now I'm going to go in, get the capabilities, extended thinking, and then ask it to resolve it. In a production setting environment, I would not have that amount of tokens being allocated to one specific task. But for MVP/testing sake, it should be fun. Okay, so it's actually gone in and fixed that. So I'm going to go back to start a new terminal. I'm going to paste that. Okay, cool. So now we're in the CLI again.
And now saying nice. Now, once you expose the tools,
we should be able to see the thinking process before the result. Yep. Thinking just said hi. This is a simple greeting, and that's responding in a friendly way.
Create some
now, if you wanted to adjust that,
UX
obviously you'd go to the
before we implement the memory tool.
And then you can obviously change that to you're a financial expert. So now it's listing what it can currently do. And I'm going to say to it,
and now it's actually going and completed that.
How's the video doing?
And
so
I'm going to grab the Python main.py.
Okay, cool. Let me get
paste that back into the
more
terminal.
recent news and performance details from the video.
I'm going to ask it, how's Tesla doing? And as
So
you
what
can
I'm
see,
gonna
the
do
thinking
is,
is being
if I take
exposed
that,
still,
go back.
far better polished, less segregated, giving us a fundamental financial outlook. I've gone in and asked it to develop a directional bias. As you can see that the bearish factors, the bullish factors, and the neutral are being exposed within the thinking block, and then it's going to come out, synthesize that data, and provide a predominant directional bias for us traders going forward. As you can see, it says why I'm not fully bearish, but it is leaning bearish. Okay, last but not least, but now I've asked it to now provide memory to the agent, and I've asked it to go review the memory tool.md we developed earlier. Since our agent can now provide directional bias, we want to have our user remember its predictions, but we also want it to adjust based on user preferences. So I've actually gone in and listed the name, pair preferences, and then the agent's perspective on the agent's memory. And I've asked it, we want the agent to record it and be able to cite these predictions going forward. Okay, it's actually finished and it's provided us a diagram. And as you can see, you can understand the architecture behind the memory system going along with the whole agent itself. So it looks good. It's updated configuration. It's enhanced the agent further. It's included the beta headers, which is super important when it comes to the API. So now let's go in there, paste the .python main py. And I'm going to ask it, hi. And then we should be able to see the memory being exposed, the memory tool being exposed within the full process. Yep, and just because we have never had a conversation before the memory tool, it's going to ask us, oh, hello, please answer these questions about yourself as the previous prompt listed. So I'm going to go in there, I'm going to provide my name, NoCodeJ. I'm going to say that I trade Palantir and Tesla and that I've been trading for 3 years. And now in order for this to take effect, I'm going to have to start a new instance, a new terminal. But we should be able to see this within the memory directory as well. Okay, I'm going to go into the memory directory now. So now I've actually told it that. So now it should be able to save it to the memory profile, which is the user profile in this case. I'm going to go look in there. And as you can see, it's recorded the exact name of me, the pairs that I want to trade, and how many years I've been trading. File says NoCodeJ and the exact information that we just discussed. So I'm going to ask it to do that analysis again, and we want it to be able to save it. So in this instance, it does the analysis first, then it saves it to its memory bank. Its directional bias is still neutral to slightly bearish, confidence is medium, and why I'm cautious here. So now that should all be saved, price levels to watch. And it's even citing the sources. So now let's go into a new terminal. And it should know exactly what my name is, how many years I've traded, and what pairs I focus on. And it's going to review its memory within the database that we created. And there you go. Follow for more.